Good morning. My name is Jean Christensen, and today's topic is 5 tips for leveraging your MWBE certification to increase sales in 2016. This program is for New York-based security guard firms. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Jean Christensen. I'm the president and CEO of Jean Christensen Associates. I am a certified minority and woman-owned business myself. I'm also certified as a trainer, coach, and consultant for MWBE programs, creator of the MWBE Success Program, and creator of the JKA Wellness Program. I have over 3 decades of experience in government contracting, with probably a good 25 of those years have been focused on the security guard industry. I owned and operated a security guard firm from 1984 to 2002, where I was successful in growing the company from 5 security officers to over 500 security officers using some of the tips and strategies that I'm going to share with you today. And after selling the company in 2001, I've also had the pleasure of working with some of the largest global security companies in the United States and abroad. So all the big names, I have worked for them in business development or partnered with them on large government contracts, helping to acquire those contracts, anything ranging from local security guard contracts in the United States to embassy contracts abroad. So I have a lot of experience with the acquisition of security guard contracts on both New York State, city, federal, and international levels. I have also, in 2014, I worked with a number of companies, successfully helping them acquire. These are small businesses, so helping them acquire over $20 million in government contracts. And I'm also a licensed coach for the New York City Compete to Win program, where last year I coached over 160 firms, varying small businesses, and assisting them with winning government contracts ranging from security, janitorial, and other types of businesses. So I'm really excited to talk to you today because as a small business owner, I am intimately familiar with some of the challenges that you may be facing right now. And we have developed strategies over the course of my 30 years in business to use the MWBE certification to bring in sales. So I'm going to jump right in. The first thing that you really need to be aware of is you absolutely must understand the purpose of your MWBE certification. Know that that certification is not going to do anything for you if you don't use it. So just through the act of getting certified yourself, you may be getting some notifications from varying government agencies. You might be hearing about all of the opportunities that are out there, but the bottom line is nothing's really going to happen with this certification unless you start becoming proactive in using it. You also need to really educate yourself on what it is that the programs are designed to do, and each of them are a little different with their goals, strategies for success, and how they measure success. So if you take New York State, for example, New York State has consistently increased their MWBE goals over the past few years. It's now up to 30%, meaning that 30% of almost all government contracts awarded will have some type of a clause in it that requires prime contractors to subcontract to small, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. So that is really important for you to know if you're trying to figure out, okay, how do you use your MWBE certification? Well, one of the ways you need to start thinking about using it is through subcontracting, because it's one of the clear measuring tools that the state uses to measure success. Also, New York State has what's called discretionary spending opportunities, which means that buyers in New York State can purchase directly from small, minority, and veteran-owned businesses without going out to bids for goods and services up to $200,000. Now, in order for you to be able to participate in this, you need to know who those buyers are, and they definitely want to work with certified firms. So that's an important distinction. In New York City, the mayor has just announced varying initiatives to increase opportunities for MWBEs, and he's committed to awarding $16 billion in contracts to New York City certified firms next year. So that's important, but notice how the language is different from New York City and New York State. New York State has a commitment for 30%, and New York City has a goal for $16 billion. So that's an important distinction. New York State also has a program for veterans, which New York City doesn't have. So that's important. New York State has also recently announced a mentor-protege program, which will help small businesses partner with larger firms to take advantage of some of their expertise. So that's really important. New York City has what they call the micro and small purchasing program, and those are purchases, the micro purchases are purchases from $0 up to $20,000. And again, buyers can purchase those types of services directly from certified firms without going out to bid. New York City also has a small purchase program where typically they will identify small certified firms for purchases up to $100,000. So it's limited competition, a little bit different than the large RFP process. And I put here subcontracting because I think it's important for you to know that subcontracting is one of the tools that you need to have in your toolbox if you are a certified firm. You must be thinking about how you can leverage your certification through subcontracting agreements with other companies. How can you get your fair share of all the bids and proposals that are out there? And if you're in the security guard business, you should be thinking not only of security contracts, but other contracts where you can leverage your certification. And last but not least, really learning how to leverage your certification. Because if you're certified with New York City and New York State, you want to start thinking about, okay, where else can I leverage that certification with other agencies that will either give me reciprocity or that have goals similar to New York City and New York State. For example, in my case, when I had my security guard firm, I used my New York City and state certification to help me fast track certifications with New Jersey, because it did make sense for us to look at projects in New Jersey. So that might be something that you want to consider as well. We also leveraged our certification, certification with New York City and state to start looking at private sector opportunities as well and federal. So again, I'm raising your awareness so that you can start thinking about, if you're certified with New York City and New York State, where else might you consider opportunities and how can you leverage that certification? And by leveraging, I mean obtaining other certifications that might be advantageous to your company either now or in the future. The second thing that you absolutely must do if you are a certified company, or even if you're not certified but you are thinking about doing business with the government, is you must use procurement forecasts to identify your opportunities. There is absolutely no point in sitting at your desk waiting for bids and proposals to come out, because statistics show that the win rates, even for incumbent security guard companies, these are companies that are already doing business with the government, is 55%. So you, as a small business, coming into this environment without knowing who the players are and what the parameters are, the chances of you actually winning government contracts without this knowledge base is very small. So it's absolutely critical that you know who, when projects are coming out, what the size of those projects are, so that you can effectively bid on them. And I want you to know that all government agencies publish procurement forecasts. In fact, we have an event coming up on December 28th where we've already downloaded all of the procurement forecasts for New York City, New York State, local federal government agencies, and we'll be giving them to our clients at this event coming up. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that at the end of this presentation. New York State, for example, spent $173 million in security services in 2014. That's significant. And with the goals that the governor has set at 30%, that absolutely means that each and every one of you listening to this phone call, there's an opportunity out there for you. There's no reason why you shouldn't have any business right now, okay? So I use procurement forecasts for my clients and for myself to plan and focus on projects that are a good fit for me. That's really important. We also want to look at who your competitors are in this marketplace so that you are not walking into an environment where there's no chance of you winning. Like there are certain contracts in New York City, for example, that they've been awarded to the same exact companies for the past 10 years. So you're not going to come into that environment and win a new contract unless you're bringing something new, innovative, or extremely competitive pricing to the table. So it's important for you to know who are your competitors, how are the government agencies awarding contracts, so you can focus on places where you have chances to win. I also think it's important when you're looking at procurement forecasts to add resources. When you start seeing contracts that might be outside of your size, outside of your scope, or where you lack expertise, nothing would prevent you from starting to maybe bring in strategic alliances or look at some of the areas where you need to add resources so that you can prepare competitive bids in certain marketplaces. And that may involve you thinking outside of the box, maybe teaming, subcontracting, or taking a smaller piece of the pie as opposed to nothing. I also want to say that in these times when you're seeing an increase in terrorism and an increase in activities, especially in New York City and New York State. So the security industry continues to grow. So what I recommend to my clients is that you start thinking about what is your niche, because not all of us are going to be the top providers of security manpower in New York City. But what are some of the areas where you might be able to focus? I have a client who, for example, his background, he's in the military. So I've suggested to him a number of times, you should be focusing on federal contracts that really want to work with service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, as opposed to directing your attention elsewhere. And I say this to this particular client because all of the bids that are coming out in the federal arena and that this particular gentleman is looking for have these complex training requirements that only somebody with a military background would really understand. And not to say that the rest of us don't know it, but it's a really good fit. I see other clients where you may want to just focus on security services in a particular area. I see other opportunities. I was at a supplier diversity event where somebody said, you know what, we're looking for security people who can speak Spanish. So again, thinking, all right, well, how can I differentiate myself from the big boys and start creating this niche for myself? Because the opportunities are there, but we have to distinguish ourselves from the larger companies in order to be successful. So that's very, very important. Number 3 is if I walk into any room and I ask the people in the room, are they struggling to get contracts? The answer is always yes. The second question I ask is, well, what are you doing for marketing? And in most cases, most small businesses are doing absolutely nothing for marketing. So I want to impress upon you the importance of creating a strategy for marketing and implementing it for 2016 so that your target audience, who you will identify through the use of procurement forecast, start to know and trust your company, because the likelihood of them doing business with you increases every time they communicate with you. So you will be able to distinguish yourself against other small businesses who are not doing any marketing. And I can tell you that's 99% of all the small businesses in this arena. So the minute you start marketing, your chances of increasing sales go up exponentially. It's important for you to know that you need to market directly to your target audience, that you need to understand what the challenges that your target audience are having. So nobody's just buying security guard services anymore. People are more focused on specific security challenges or meeting specific goals within their organizations. Some of those goals have everything to do with working with diverse companies. So that is a strategic advantage that certified companies have. And then thinking about, okay, what else do we bring to the table? Again, the gentleman I was thinking of at a large corporation said he prefers working with small businesses, but he was really looking for companies that had team members that could speak Spanish. Next thing you need to do is create compelling marketing materials. And by compelling marketing materials, I don't mean the fancy big brochures that you see a lot of companies walk around with. I mean tools that can help your target audience relate to you, tools that you can use to educate your target audience about who you are and what your company does. So if you're doing business, if you're thinking about doing business with the government, number one, you're going to need a capability statement. But you can also use things like email marketing templates, um, direct mail, letters of introductions, case studies, employee overviews, and things like that. Because as the world is evolving, people care less and less about those big fancy brochures. They want to work with companies that they know, like, and trust. And what we're finding is that the companies that successfully engage their target audience are consistently have a consistent pipeline of clients that are ready to do business with them. So that's an important thing that you need to know. You need to stay in touch. So many of us sit behind our desks thinking, that we're going to get contracts, and I can tell you right now that that's not the way things work. More and more, I am finding that the more you are in touch with your target audience, the stronger potential you have for obtaining new clients. So that means you need to consistently stay in touch, and however that works for you. In my company, we do email, we do networking, we do case studies, and a number of other activities. We are even using social media to stay in front of our target audience at all times. So that's really important. And the last thing I'll say to you is, if you're doing a good job for a client right now, or if you have, let's say this is your first time working in the guard industry on your own, go back to some of the people who know you, even at your old company, old clients, friends, and get testimonials, because that's the other thing that helps when people are looking for security people to do business with. They want to know, what have you done in the past? What's your track record of success? What results can they rely on your firm for? So again, if you can see that I'm trying to show you that it's important that you connect with your target audience and that you can speak to results and high quality service that you've done in the past. Bidding strategies. So tip number 4 is to really start developing a bidding strategy in your office, in your business, so that you are only focusing on projects that you can win. So many times I get requests from some of my security clients that say, hey, there's a bid in Alabama, we're going to go for it. Meanwhile, you don't have any presence in Alabama, you've never done business in Alabama, but you think it's a good fit because it's a small business set aside. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the way to approach things. If you are a locally based security guard firm in New York City, you want to focus on opportunities in New York City and New York State, and then as you start achieving success in that marketplace, start expanding from there. There's no point in going after contracts outside of your geographic region if you don't have a presence in that geographic region. And that's just one example. So again, focusing your attention on only the projects that you have the best chance of winning. Identify barriers to success, and we all know what a lot of those barriers are. The first one is finances. The second one is lack of past performance. So rather than just allowing that to continue to be your story, let's start coming up with strategies to overcome those barriers to success. And there are ways to do it. Trust me, I've done it. I continue to do it now with clients that I'm working with. And it absolutely, you need to think outside of the box. You can't allow this continual cycle of, I don't have any money and I'm struggling with past performance. If you think that you want to do business with the government, your job is to figure out, okay, how can I overcome those things so that I can really participate meaningfully in this marketplace? The other bidding strategy that I think is absolutely critical, especially as you look into 2016, is to develop a standardized pricing template. In other words, that's when you go back to your vendors, your insurance brokers, your uniform provider, the people who are servicing your vehicles, and you get the most competitive pricing that you possibly can. so that when you're preparing bids and proposals, you have competitive pricing that you've shopped around for, that you've told your key suppliers that you are shopping around for, so that you can get competitive pricing. One of the real barriers to success for small businesses is that it's hard for us to compete with larger firms because they get better pricing on uniforms and equipment and otherwise. So I encourage you to develop a pricing template where you know exactly what your cost of doing business is. In other words, if you're putting a security guard out on the street, how much does that cost you? You should know that. And what are your fixed costs in the office, so that you also understand what your break even is, so that you can compete in this marketplace, but from a place of knowledge and confidence, as opposed to what I see a lot of us doing. We're just kind of guessing at pricing. And if you are serious about increasing sales for 2016, I am encouraging you to get really serious about developing a competitive pricing model, even if that means hiring somebody to help you do it. The other thing that's going to be important for you is to educate yourself and prepare for changes in employee wages, benefits, and entitlements. If you're a security guard firm in New York City, you should be keeping your eyes open for the increase in minimum wage that's coming up, the requirement for paid sick leave, the requirements for living wages, the requirements for prevailing wages on government contracts. All these things are fluid and changing rapidly. So as you're preparing for 2016, either educating yourself or bringing somebody into the company that understands these things is going to be critical for your success in 2016. And then most important, I think, going back to my original comment about how the government uses certification to increase opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, subcontracting is a really big part of that. So I would encourage you now to start thinking about who could you possibly approach, or who might be a good teaming, subcontracting, or joint venture partner for you as you start thinking about ways that you can increase sales for 2016. You should identify those partners now, as opposed to waiting for projects to go out to bid. Because then you can be more strategic about how you approach things. So that's really important. And then the last thing is financial preparedness. So I have to just say, I may offend some people, but you need to get rid of all your excuses. I hear so many times from people, well, I don't have any money. And guess what? That's a lot of our stories. So the job you have at hand is to figure out, okay, how can you get the cash that you need to run your business? I see so many security guard companies kind of thinking, all right, I'm going to get the contracts and I'll worry about how do I get the cash afterwards. And either they're failing or they're not able to make payroll. And it's just such a painful place to operate from. So what I'm suggesting is that, number one, you do a cash flow projection, that as you start thinking about sales for 2016, you start thinking about, okay, well, how many contracts can I realistically handle? What would be a good number for me? What type of profit margins am I looking for? And then build a cash flow projection around that. And that'll put you in a position where it'll help you, it'll create so much clarity so that you can figure out, okay, I'm only going to go after contracts, even if they're $100,000 contracts. Let's start small. Let's build up a cash reserve, and then we can start going after larger projects. Sometimes a lot of us are biting off more than we can chew, and then we find ourselves strapped for cash. If you're thinking about doing business with government agencies, or you're going to be a subcontractor on a project, you really need to know, what are your startup costs for new contracts, and you really have to have a strategy for how are you going to float payroll for anywhere from 60 to 90 days. That's the game in security. And if you don't have a strategy for that, again, I have some tools and resources that I can share with you on how we do it and how we have set up some of our clients to do it. Keep overhead low. That's the other thing that I see successful. Even the largest companies, all your G4Ss and Allied Bartons, they run lean, mean operations. So, consider, what are you paying yourself? What are you paying your key staff? What kinds of equipment are you using? You want to keep your overhead as low as possible. You want to start identifying sources of cash. One of the things that we started talking to our clients about is having more than one revenue stream, so that it shouldn't just be putting guards on the street. What else can you do to increase cash flow for your business? And I'll talk to you about some of the ways that we're doing it. I will share with you that many government agencies, New York State, New York City, the feds, have a variety of programs for microloans, SBA loans, and statistics show that certified businesses don't go after these types of loans because we automatically assume that we don't qualify for them. So I'm here to tell you that I think it's important for you to start considering having a banking relationship with someone. And think about whoever's got your bank account for payroll. Let's go in and let's start talking to those people. And it's not a guarantee that you're going to get a loan, but you should start that dialogue, as opposed to what most of us do, that we just assume because we've had credit problems or we've had some issues in the past that we are not eligible for loans. That is not the case. There's a lot of different ways that you can get money for your business, but you have to start thinking about that as part of your job, like it needs to be on your checklist. Bonding is required on several of the larger, New York City and New York State contracts, especially in the construction industry. So if you're thinking about, subcontracting in that space or working on some very large contracts, you may need a bond. So I think it's important to know what are the bonding requirements so that you can make smart business decisions about what projects you're going to go after, and if you're going to go after projects that require bid, payment, and performance bonds, that you have those tools in place, or at least you start having those conversations about what do you need to have those tools in place so that you can compete in that marketplace. And then factoring. Factoring is a way that a lot of small businesses finance their payroll. And I think it's not necessarily the best way, but it's one of the ways. So it's something that you should be looking into as a potential solution for meeting your obligations if you are, in fact, going to be going into this fluid environment where you're going to have to pay your security people either weekly or bi-weekly while you're waiting for payments to come in 60 or 90 days. There's got to be some strategy to bring money into the business. So if any of these things sounded interesting to you, my bonus tip is that you need to continue to invest in yourself. Way back when I started my security guard company with my family, I find even today a lot of the information that I'm sharing is just not available in a comprehensive way. So what I've done is I have put together a full one-day, what I call a VIP program, where I made room for 10 security companies. So it's going to be a small, intimate setting with 10 qualified security companies that I will share with them exactly how to do some of the things that we just talked about. So first and foremost, if you attend this event on December 28th, 2015, the first thing you're going to get from us is a detailed overview of how the government uses their MWBE certification. So we'll dive a little deeper into some of the areas that I talked about at the beginning, like discretionary spending. We'll show you exactly how to find discretionary spending opportunities, who the buyers are, what you need to do business with them. We'll also clarify for you what the MWBE goals are for New York City and New York State, and show you how you can stay on top of that information so that if you are, in fact, looking to do business, that you have the tools that you need. The second big thing that you'll get if you choose to work with us on December 28th is I'm going to give you all of the procurement forecasts for New York City, New York State, local federal governments, and I will share some additional resources for private sector organizations and others that are looking for MWBE firms. So that's going to be, that in itself, as far as I'm concerned, is a game changer, because instead of telling you to find the procurement forecast, I'm just going to give them to you. In addition, we will show you exactly how to market to government agencies. Number one, I will give you the list of the buyers for New York City, New York State, and local federal government agencies. And that buyers list will be complete with the name of the person, the phone number, the company name, and email address, so that you'll have all of the information that you need in order to successfully communicate with your target audience. All right, okay? We will also give you all of our marketing templates. So that is, number one, a free subscription to Constant Contact, and that's a free trial for 60 days with a done template, so that all you have to do is copy and paste it, and you can use it over and over again. We will give you samples of our capability statements, our direct mail letters, our postcards, and our telemarketing scripts. So again, you don't have to struggle anymore. You can literally copy and paste our information, make some minor adjustments to it, and you'll have a marketing plan that will sustain you for the next year, so that you don't have to create all this stuff. And the things that you do need to create, we will actually create for you as part of what we're giving away for your participation in this event. We'll give you our templates for the bidding strategies. So you'll see how we've successfully bid on a number of government contracts and what a good template looks like. You'll obviously have to put in your own numbers, but at least you'll have the starting ground for how to get this done in Excel. We'll also give you our tools, tips, resources, and cheat sheets for how to develop an effective go to no-go process, so that again, you're only focusing on projects that you can win. And we'll show you how to make smart business decisions around what bids to go after. Like, how does the government evaluate companies when they're looking to make decisions? And last but not least, we brought in 2 guest speakers who will talk to you a little bit about financing and bonding, and that will also give you an overview of what you'll need to get financing, what you'll need to get bonding, and we'll give you a list of local banks and financial institutions that are working with small minority and women-owned businesses. We'll also connect you to our resources. So if you don't have a good accountant or you don't have somebody that you can trust, we have a network of people that we work with that might be able to assist you. So again, if any of this spoke to you, I would like to invite you to join us on December 28th at 275 Madison Avenue. We will have a full day of workshop where you'll get not only what I shared on this call, but you'll have the opportunity to network with other security guard firms, and you will also have access to our resources, which includes financial companies, bonding companies, and other professionals. Again, I've only made room for 10 people. We're not looking to have a very large group. So if this is something that you're interested in, please click on the link below and register for the event. And I also want to just tell you that if you register before December 18th, you'll have a huge discount on the pricing. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope you found this information helpful, and I wish you all the success in the world for 2016. Have a great day.